This is an interview with Nicholas Butrico at home, his home, 130 Highway Avenue, Congress, New York, February 3rd, 2003, approximately 3 p.m. The interviewers are Michael Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth?
Nicholas Butrico, B-U-T-R-I-C-O. I was born in New York. I was born in January 29th, 1922.
Okay. What was your educational background
Well, I only
before
went
you
to
went into service?
high school, that's all.
Mhm.
Those
Okay.
days, not many people went to college, you know.
Where were you, and what do you remember from when you heard the news of Pearl Harbor?
Well, I was upstairs. I think it was about 11 o'clock. I'm not sure the time. It might have been the afternoon. I don't remember. I was watching a football game, the Giants, because the Giants were playing, and they interrupted Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was bombed, and I don't know. I don't remember who was there. I said, where the hell is Pearl Harbor? You know, hell, I never heard of it. Where the hell is Pearl? I didn't realize it was our country being bombed. Then I went downstairs. I said, well, let me go downstairs, you know, and I meet the rest of the fellas. And they're talking, you know, the United States is bombed. We're going to go to war. And I didn't realize it at the time. So that's how I really found out that Pearl Harbor belonged to America. I didn't.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
But let's put it this way. Either I was drafted, but then again, maybe I enlisted because while I was home, all my buddies were gone. You know, I had a few of the younger fellas, and I wasn't. And I was considered 1A, you know, because I still got that stuff hanging around. And when I got to I went back to the local board and I asked him. I says, "How come I didn't get called?" He says, "What's your name?" He says, "We got no record of you." So I said, "I'm going to take a look in the dead files." You look in the dead files and my name comes up in the dead file. Now, if I wouldn't have went back there, I probably would have went to the whole war without. So then 2 weeks later, I got the notice, go to Governor's Island. I suppose you know where that is. It's right down here in South. And that's where I went for my physical, you know. That's a preliminary. They want to see if you got 2 arms, 2 legs. You ain't got a heart condition. It's just not a real physical. The real physical came later on.
When were you finally mustered into service? When did you join?
I was October 42. I was drafted.
Okay.
And I got on, I remember going to Fort Dix, and from Fort Dix, shipped me out to Breckenridge, Kentucky. I was with the 98th Infantry Division. Now the funny story about that is, the 98th Infantry Division, I was with, it was a New York division, the Iroquois, so you must know that it was a New York division. And every time we go on problems, I was doing my basic training there, and every time we went on problems, we used to get lost. So I had another buddy, he passed away a few years ago. I said to him, you know, we go into combat with these guys, we're going to get ourselves killed. He says, yeah, I know. He says, every time we go out, we get lost. Well, we couldn't get out. I tried to get in the Air Corps, they wouldn't take me because I'm colorblind, and they wouldn't take me. Later on, they were looking for guys that were colorblind. And they wouldn't take me. But that's about the only place. But then a general order came down, and was on a bulletin board. They're looking for volunteers for Rangers. So I says to my friend, well, what can we lose? At least, you know, we know maybe we got a better outfit, and it's not a big outfit. Okay, 2,500 men took the physical right there on the bay, right in the Camp Breckenridge. Only about 200 passed. I was one of them, okay? I figured, well, all these guys failed, and either they were, either were colorblind, but I was colorblind, but I was a little smart. I was in a line, and when I got up there, I used to get back, I used to go to the back guy, because they had cotton on the floor, and they tell you pick the red one out, pick the red, and I was memorizing. So when I got there, guys just picked the red one. I well, they could have changed it. I wouldn't know. Well, and then the 98th Division was going on maneuvers in Tennessee, and I was pulled out. Me and my buddy and a few other guys, we were pulled out, and we were sent to the 5th Ranger Battalion in Camp Forest, Tennessee, with the 2nd Ranger Battalions there. Both battalions were there. We stood there, we trained there for a while, and then from there we went to Fort Pierce, Florida. We did a little amphibious training. I figured, hey, we're going to go to Japan, They're teaching us how to, with the rubber boats and stuff. Okay, we went to Japan. And then from there, I came up to Fort Dix. At Fort Dix, we stood about 2 months just training and all this. Then the next thing I know, we're in Camp Kilmer. That's an embarkation. Because you got Camp Shankers is right down the block here, right down the corner here. The 2nd Ranger came out of Camp we came out of Kilmore. We got on the ship.
Sure, can I stop you for a second? What kind of specialized training did you get as a ranger?
Well, I didn't get to it yet.
Oh,
all the
okay,
training we
okay,
were getting in the
okay.
States is
all right. Okay.
was like basic training.
Basic training, okay.
Bead marches
I was
and
just
things
wondering
like
if you got
that.
anything special
No,
before
when we went to the boat, we got on the ship, we got on the Mauritania, and we were right out of our harbor, a tanker hit us in the front, but the boat didn't sink, and it shook the boat, and I said, Jesus, maybe today, we're getting bombed already. I mean, we get torpedoes with we were going unescorted because the Mauritania was a big ship and it was fast, because the submarines probably couldn't catch up to it. But then we find out that we're going back to port. We go to 42nd Street in one of those piers and pull in there. Right away, all the GIs, there's a lot of G's on the ship. The war is over, The rumors, the war. So that's why they brought us back to 42nd Street. But then we got the news that they were repairing that cut, They probably could have made the trip, but play it safe. They worked all day. That night, next day I woke up, all I see is water. We had pulled out. I ended up in Liverpool.
Did you go across in a convoy or
No.
were you a single trip?
It only took us 6 days. We went to Liverpool, and Liverpool, from there, we were shipped to Wales or Leicester. We only stood there to do little problems. Then the big goods started. They shipped us up to Dundee, Scotland, British Commando School. That's where most of our teachers were British commandos. And the training was tough there. A lot of guys were pulled out, couldn't make it. They fall out of marches. Every time we did anything, it was live ammunition, no simulator. Everything was live ammunition. Then we had to climb cliffs up and down, from the top down and climb up. They showed us how to do it. I remember we used to put it through our legs, and you could do a good down. It was upwards which bothered us. We went through a lot of force marches. We had a march, I think, of 9 miles. We had to do it in at least an hour. It had to be, and then you try force marching, your feet start to get you. And if you didn't stay in, out you went. In other words, they ship you back to the infantry outfit or wherever. Well, we made it all through, and then after we got through with Dundee, I ended up down in the Isle of Wight, right down the southern part of England. And then we did a little more training with boats coming in. And then we ended up on Weymouth. Then we got on the ship on Weymouth. And that's where we got this letter that I showed you inside. But I didn't think nothing of it. But we knew now, this is June 4th. We knew where the invasion was coming, but we didn't know exactly what day. We knew where it was because we were getting maps from the Air Corps. Every time on a bomber run, they'd come back Pointe du Hoc. That's what our objective was. They'd take pictures. No sooner as they landed, we had them in less than an hour on our tables, where this was and where that was and where the guns were supposed to be. and we did that. And while we were doing this, we weren't allowed out. We couldn't. They had us guarded into a. Here we are, barbed wire all around. British soldiers guarding us. Then they had another rim, American soldiers guarding the British soldiers. Anybody in our outfit tried to get through the barbed wire, but they would shoot to kill them. Because we knew too much, even though we didn't know the date, but we knew too much. We knew where it was coming. I'm on a ship there. The next thing you know, about during the night, the boats, they pull out, you know. This is about June 5th. I don't know, they stood in the harbor. We laid in that Weymouth Harbor for 2-3 days, eating British food, and all they ever played was little greasy lamb and stuff like that. We used to have to eat them. We landed in Normandy with the British. It wasn't with the British, but British LCAs, they call them. They're very low in the water. They don't, it's not a, you heard of the Higgins boat, where you see the movies where they come down. We didn't come, we come with the doors open in the front. Now we're on this ship, and the next thing I know was the 5th, and they told us, well, it wasn't going to happen, you know, because the weather was bad. It was bad, and then they said June 6th, as far as we knew, I found out after, June 6th was better, but it wasn't any better. Because I was seasick. No, as soon as I got to the, you know, we didn't have to climb down the ropes like you see in the movies to get on there. We just stepped right on as if we were going on a lifeboat. See, they used to lay right along the ship, and they used to drag us down into the water. We'd get on there, about 5 or 6 boats for the whole battalion, and then we circle around the ship, and the USS Texas, you know, big cruiser out there, big warship out there, were firing, boom, boom. Every time they're firing, the whole boat shook, you know, the little boat we were ship. And as we're going into shore, the water was so rough, we started to sink. So the limey there, the British coxswain, turned, hey, you Yanks, you know the way they talk. You better stop bailing out, or you ain't gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. Okay, so everybody took their helmets off, and me, I was so sick that my rifle was laying on the bottom of the water. I wasn't worried about, you know, bailing out to get, so we can get the ship up a little bit. But we finally got it up because a couple of them did go down. And we made it to shore, but this is where I really found out what war was like. As soon as we got there, there was this kid, Chester, he came from Brooklyn. He says to me, Nick, you know, he's one of my buddies. He says, Nick, I don't know how to swim. I said, well, you got a life jacket. It's going to be a piece of cake, you know. Well, as soon as we got in, the coxswain opens the doors. My friend and Sergeant Walters were the first 2 off. Now, when they went off, they went right down. There was a shell hole there, you know, from the Air Corps, and it was deep. Sergeant held on to the door, but the kid, he was only 17 or 18, didn't hold on to the door, so he just dumped out, and a big wave, the water was so rough, just came over and right on top of him. And then I found out a few days later from headquarters, they found him on the beach. He died. I felt bad, you know, then I know what it was war like, and like I said, that letter that you read, it tells, when it wasn't so bad. Once I hit the land, I didn't even know I was seasick anymore. I'm worried about my ass, I was seasick. I hit this dune there, and when I got there, I stood there a while, and I'm seeing what's going on. I see the 29th Division, that was the other, and the 1st Division coming in, and some of these shells that the Germans were throwing out, 88s or mortars, one of them hit, they had like these big ships, these I don't know what the hell, LSTs, they had like ramps on the side that you walk down. Well, one of those shells, while the guys were coming on, hit that ramp. Everybody flying all over the place. I said, Jesus Christ, what the hell am I doing here? Now our objective that day, we landed on Omaha, but our objective was to go into the point. Now we had three companies of the 2nd Ranger, one right into the point. the 5th Ranger Battalion and 3 companies of 2nd Rangers landed with us. We were attached to the 29th Division. Now our job was to get up to the road and head to Pointe du Hoc, which was about 5 miles away, and give the 2nd Ranger Battalion, capture these guns from the rear. And everything was so snafu'd, the original guys who were going to Pointe du Hoc were about 3 miles off course. So they had to bypass along the shore to get to the point. And, you know, the Germans are shooting at them as they're going by. Well, they made it to point, but if we didn't hear from them in a half hour from the time, the original time, we had Colonel Snyder go into Omaha with the 29th, go up, get up to the drawer, and meet on the top, get to the point. That was your job, get to the point, you know, Pointe du Hoc. Okay, but we got up to, when I hit that sand dune, and I'm looking out there, and I said, Jesus Christ, what the hell am I doing here? And there was another few other guys. We turned around, and the whole countryside was burning. It wasn't, so we had to I put on my, still had the gas mask to get up to the top. So I finally got to the top. There was not many, everything was disoriented. The guys, I don't know, so I finally happened to see my captain run. He says, Nick, what are you doing? I said, I don't know, it was only 3 of us here. So we picked up a few more Rangers. We ended up picking up 23. Because we were scattered all over the place. So the 23 Rangers, so the captain, he got a DSC for this, and he says, let's go to the point. Actually, we were supposed to meet the whole battalion and then go to it. Let's go to the point, and we went to the point. 23 men and the captain were the only ones on D-Day that got to the Pointe du Hoc on June 6th. It's in all the books, you read that. We got the rest of the battalion never got there. They got there 3 days later because what happened, the 29th was taking a hell of a beating. They were getting counterattacked. So when they knew we had the point secured, they told them, stay with the 29th Division and give them a hand. And they were supposed to come to the point too, and that's what happened. And from there, I was okay. I didn't get a scratch. Not a scratch. I was pretty lucky, you know, seeing what was going on. We stood at, it was about D plus 10, maybe 13, I don't remember the day because that's when I wrote the letter. And they took us off the line. Cherbourg had fell. They made us take care of prisoners, you know, prisoners of war. Take them down to the beach. We were about 3 or 4 miles. They had the thing lighted up like Times Square. I suppose the Germans knew there was a prison of war camp, so they didn't bomb, they didn't scrape it or bomb it. And then there was another one right down on the beach. But this was, you know, about D15, somewhere around there. And we used to get 100 prisoners, walk them. And we got Italian prisoners and German prisoners, Polacks, everything. Take them to the stockade right on the beach, and then they would put them on ships, either England or America, wherever they're going. And we did that for, I think we lasted 2 days on the job. The Navy was, when you hit the beach, the Navy's in charge. The Navy put in a complaint, the Rangers weren't following the Geneva rules, you know, because we had 100 prisoners. When we got to the stockade, we had 98, 96. What happened to the rest? We know they didn't run away because we had a lot of nuts in the outfit. And one incident, it happened with me, and nobody ever believes it, but this is the God honest. Whenever I say this story, people just laugh. They don't believe it. We're going down to the beach. Now you try to walk in sand. It's tough. And we used to speed march because the quicker we got to the stockade, the other stockade, we go get a truck, and you know, a lot of trucks going by, we get a truck, we get a break. You know, we didn't have to dig no foxhole because it was light, the Germans knew it was there. But we're walking down, we got these 100 on the beach. We had a couple of older Germans, and so my sergeant comes out, Sergeant Rooney, he says to me, Nick, these guys are holding us up. He says, take these 2 guys with the medics, tell them to walk slow, we'll meet you at the stockade. I said, okay. And this was dark. It was at nighttime. We're walking. I fall in the shell hole. You know, there's a lot of shell holes there. And when I fall, I lose the rifle. I had the rifle in my hand. It fell out of my hand. Right into the sand I went, and these two Germans and the medics jump in the same hole with me. And right, you know, you got a thing going through here. This is it. They grabbed me. They picked me up. They started wiping all the sand off my clothes. They picked the rifle up from the floor. They cleaned it in the hand of the rifle. And every time I tell that story, nobody believes it, but that is the truth. So you could show you. Then I said to them, maybe that's why they figured they were too. Why should they? Where were they going to go? They were, you know, the front line was maybe 6-7 miles away. What are they going to do? Go to escape and fight again? They were smart. They didn't want to fight. In fact, most of the Germans didn't want to fight. Well, you know, they figured, what the hell are we going to fight for? You know, they knew that. And then from there, we ended up in, once they threw us off that. I think it was 2 or 3 days. We got thrown out because they said that we weren't following the Geneva rules, because we used to take the 100 prisoners, and there was a lot of ships. We had a big storm there, and blew a lot of these big ships right onto the beach. And every time we take them down to the beach, we run them along we'd line them up. About 5 of us, we'd line them up. That's where they got us, lining us up. Because when they were in the stockade, they were interrogated. They left them with their watches and stuff like that. And we said, what should they keep their watch? Well, we used to line them up and we used to clean them out. You know, in other words, Germans have. There was one German who didn't want to give up his watch. They had a lot of pocket money, and I'm struggling with this guy. So I just take the bayonet out of the side and I put it in the thing there, and he got the idea what I was talking about. You know, okay, you can have it. So I took it out. I figured, well, this must be a valuable watch that he's keeping. I opened it up, it was a glass eye. Jesus Christ! I was so mad. I felt like shooting him, but I took the eye and I threw it right in the ocean. So I said to him, "You made me do all this for a glass eye?" I says, "Don't worry about it. When you go to America, they'll probably give you another one, you know." And that was some of the stories. See, that's some of the reasons why they threw us out of that. They didn't want. In fact, we weren't made to take care of prisoners. Being that we had to get new men. Some guys were coming back that were wounded. We had to get new men. We had to train them again. You know, they didn't get the training we got, but they got some of it. I ended up in Brest. Now in Brest, we get stuck with the 29th Division again. The 29th Division, the 8th Division. Now people don't know this. I don't know if I should say this. The 8th Division ran. Now they sent us up there to Brest with the 2nd Ranger Battalion and the 5th for support, you know, protect their flanks. Because the flank is the weakest part of anything, because the Germans, they come in on the flank, they would come this way, they come this way. They used to put us out on the flank. The 29th Division used to go up about 3 miles, and we used to just wait behind it and go right up there. We didn't have no firing to do, none. We stopped right alongside it, the division. Germans make counterattack, they pull back, but they don't tell us, you see. We're stuck out there by ourselves, and we had a colonel, an Irishman, his name was Sullivan, because the one we had went back to the States. He says, "I ain't giving up this. I got here, and I'm not going to give it. We stay till they come back." And then a couple of days later, they counterattack and they come back again. But they always. Now, in Brest, there were 26 objectives. Now, mind you, there were 2 divisions there. I think 3. The 8th Division, the 29th Division we were attached to. I think the 2nd was attached to the 8th. And we had a couple of armored divisions there, and you had other personnel. There were 26 objectives in the whole battalion. Out of the 20, and we weren't supposed to do any fighting. Out of the 26, so you figure this one out. Out of 26 objectives, we took 24. And we're only, 450 men, that's all. We're not a big unit. A division, a division's got 18,000 men. Here we got 400. And we took 24 objectives, which they were supposed to take. They only took 2. And then we had this guy, I showed you the book inside. He went up to in Brest was a submarine base for the Germans. They wanted the Brest very bad because they could use it for, it's a big port. But the Germans wrecked it when we got there, they wrecked it. But this Sergeant Elms, I told you, with 8 guys, went in there, I don't know how with him and 8 guys, he talked to the colonel, he had the colonel believing he had. They were surrounded, they were only 8 men. So he told everybody to throw their arms on them, go out the front door. 800 there was 7 guys captured. He got a DSC, and I think he got the Silver Tiger, 2 awards for that. And after Brest, while I was in Brest, that's where, see, I lost my hearing. See, right now, this hearing aid is broke. Tomorrow I got to go to the VA, and they're going to give me new ones. I lost my hearing. We're making one of the objectives that we're going after, the 29th, I don't remember what, the 8th Division was supposed to get. We're running across this field. Now this is July, it's hot. And the Germans open up. So I was with 2 other guys, and we hit the dirt, and dead cow, And the cow, he's like that, he blows up like a balloon, they're late in the hot sun, they stink. So we go right, at least it was cover. So I said to the other, if we stay here, we're going to die. Either we're going to get shot or we're going to die of the stink, because the smell was terrific. So we got up and we started to run through, we were supposed to run through a little hedge there, we were a little protected. As he running, the Germans threw out they got 40 millimeters mortars. I could see it coming right at me. And I just froze. It went right through my legs, didn't even touch me, and exploded in back of me. It killed the 2 guys in back of me. All I got was, concussion. I was on the floor. The next thing I know, I found myself in an aid station. I said, what am I doing here? They said, well, you had concussion. You didn't realize it, that the shell had knocked you out, But I didn't get nothing on me. I've been pretty lucky when it comes to that. So, right after that, I don't know if it was that, my hearing, the guys would say, hey, Nick, can't you hear what we're talking about? And they always had a holler. And as the years went by, I got worse. If I took this hearing aid off, I'm dead. I'm so bad, the hearing aid is so bad, but then the old age too, that helps. And then from there, I remember I come back to the outfit. A couple of days later, they sent me back. We went to, they put us on a train, but that's, here's just a company, one section, the guard trains, because the French, the frogs, we used to call them, were stealing the rations off the trains. Every time a train stopped, they steal the rations. Well, we were supposed to, we got this train, maybe 100 cars. We were the last in the caboose in the back. And every time the train stopped, we had to jump off. Someone has said, and just look up the line and see that the French or somebody stealing the bee rations. And then, the guys that driving the choo-choo train, they probably were in cahoots. That's why they used to stop. Probably they get over there, and the Americans were losing a lot of stuff that way. But we took some of the bee rations, which was good stuff, like peaches and stuff like that. It was all good rations. We took them, but at least we took them because we didn't know what the hell. We always ate K rations, the crackers, and you know what that is, a little box of K. That's what we had. And when we were on this train, we got to one of the box cars. We took a box, and there was peaches in the can and big can and other good food, eggs, powdered eggs. We didn't get that. But that's the only thing. And we took that to a town in Shaw's. When we got there, the town was flat. Paris had fell. There's nothing there. But just a train depot where we turned this over to some outfit that waiting for us. They took over the train. Now we gave them the train. We were about 6 guys. What do we do now? They were supposed to pick us up there. Our colonel was supposed to pick us up there. because the rest of the battalion went on to Belgium, all on Belgium. I said, what do we do now? So we had an Irish sergeant. Let's go to Paris. And we weren't that far from Paris. Paris was off limits. At that time, it was Chitfell. It was off limits. We got to Paris, but we got in, and the MPs grabbed us. The first thing they know, there's a few Air Corps men here. They put us up in the Grand Hotel. Beautiful hotel in France. We stood there. We've had a lot of trouble. Then we had our sergeant and another guy fight with the MPs. They wanted to go out, scout around and see what they can find. And here, captain from the MPs comes up to this sergeant and ordered him something. And we happened to be upstairs, but they had locked the doors on us. The MPs locked the doors on us. They don't want us to go downstairs. But these two guys and a couple other, these two guys, they both were sergeants. This captain from the MPs comes over and he must have said something. This guy just hauled off and flattened the captain right on the floor. That's a court-martial offense. They knocked him, but they arrested him. Now finally, our colonel finally comes to Paris. He says, "Weren't we supposed to be in Shaw's? What are you doing here in Paris?" Well, we was empty. There was nothing there, so we decided to come here. He says, "Where's the two sergeants?" I told him. He went down to the MP. They're in the stockade there. He got them out of the stockade, but they never were court-martialed. Usually it's a court-martial offense. They never were court-martialed. He just took them right out, and I don't know. Maybe he threatened them. I don't know. And we went to Ardennes, Belgium. We stood there. A little training there. We got some new men. And then from there, I don't remember. See, now these are the parts I forget. I don't remember what happened. We were on other places, but the last mission we were on, Zief, it's called Zief. Patton had gone to the Bulge, left us down, and the Bulge was, we were told they want us to go over the Saar River, the battalion, go over the Saar River. We had to go by rope boats. Of course, the 94th Division had a piece of it on the other side, and we would go through them, 11 miles into enemy territory, and sit in Ziep, crossroads. All they wanted us to do was stop anything that comes through there, tanks, anything. Well, I got a break on there. Maybe I wouldn't have made it out of there. I got a break there. As we were getting ready to, because the battalion was spread out, company here, company there, so they're going to get all together, and we're all going to go at night, it was about 12 o'clock at night, we're going to, pitch black, we're going to go to this 11 miles behind enemy lines. As we were going, A Company, which was like, as we were going, the Germans threw an harassing fire. It's like, they just felt like throwing out fire. It just happened to land right in the middle of us. A lot of guys got killed. A lot of guys got wounded. So I'm helping one guy up. He was hit in the stomach. I remember today, his name was Anderson. He was, he had finally died. And I helped him, and the ambulance pulled up, and I put him in the ambulance. And then when I'm getting out, the doctor was in the ambulance, or a medic. He says to me, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going back to the outfit before they go over there. Where were I going to go?" He said, "You ain't going anywhere." He said, "Don't you know you're hit?" I didn't know I was hit. I was hit right above the eye. He says, "You're lucky it didn't come down an inch. You'd have lost an eye." I was hit, that's about here, with a small piece of shrapnel, but I didn't even, and it was bleeding, but I thought it was from the guy I was helping, and he said to me, "You're not going." I must have felt relieved. I didn't have to go. They took me back, and they checked it out, and they said, "Well, you're all right. It didn't affect your eyes." So, but I couldn't get back to the battalion anymore. They had gone 11 miles into German territory and sit there. They were supposed to be relieved in 3 days. The 94th Division and Patton making this big push to the Rhine, and we were supposed to see that the Germans don't bring up tanks, anything. Well, the first, I hear this from the other guys because I wasn't there. And car pulls up, a German car, got the little lights in the headlight. They stop him. It's a funny story. A major, the German army, and two medics. And these guys said to me, you are prisoners. He said, what do you mean? It can't be. He said, the front line's about 10 miles away. He said, what are you doing here? He said, the Germans hadn't known we were there. He said, they didn't know that we were there yet. And we took them prisoners. We captured a bunker. You know what a bunker is? Mm-hmm. We used that, Colonel was using that for headquarters. And the Germans, when they found out we were there, oh Jesus Christ, they kept making counterattacks. They go through our lines. We send in artillery, our own artillery, on our position so to get rid of them. And they'd be cursing, goddamn Yankees, Yankee bums, go home, But the thing is, I wasn't there, see. I missed all this, and then again I could have got killed too, because we lost a lot of men there. And then what happened was, I would tell you about the guy that jumped off the boat in Normandy. He held on. His name was Sergeant Walters. He was the nicest guy. He had 2 kids. I don't know what the hell he was doing in the ranges with 2 kids. Well, another sergeant, and he just passed away, so he wanted a cup of coffee, so somebody had to stay in this foxhole. Well, so Walters says, go ahead, I'll go in your hole. You go for the coffee. Now, while he's going for the coffee, the Germans throwing artillery, one goes right in the hole, kills Walters. And I always said to the guys when I got back, I said, he could have just as well died on the beach. Then the war was almost over. This is March. I said, going through all this, and he has to die that way. The guy that he covered the hole for went berserk. They put him in the bunker. He went berserk, And he passed away a few years back he was an alcoholic. I don't know if that caused it or what. But what happened, we had so many Germans dead, caught a lot of, we had German prisoners they had them stacked in a barn. The barn, you could barely close the door. They had them all stacked in there, and the Germans were dead all over the place. Every time they'd come up the road, they'd blast at them, kill them. They were all over the place. The place looked like a Western Normandy, all over, but only they were Germans. We had a lot of wounded, so all the wounded were brought back to the bunker. And we had a lot of German wounded. They were brought back to the bunker. Now our colonel turned around to the major, he was a major, the German doctor, and he says to him, listen, he says, our men we have our medics, doctor, taking care of ours. He says, you have free the bunker, take care of your men, take care of with your 2. I promise that you wouldn't, the doctor says, yes, he didn't make them. Well, one thing about it, turned out, our colonel shook his hand when he left. He worked on Americans and Germans, the ones who were wounded. He's a doctor, even Germany, they believe in it, not all Germans were Nazis, a lot of those Germans didn't even want to fight, they would have rather give up. And then from there, that was supposed to be 3 days, I told you, right? 11 days before they got to us, running out of ammunition, and I'm not there all this time. I'm telling you the story of what's happening. The guys told me when I finally got back, 11 days, the ammunition is low, the food is low, the food is practically gone, we're eating German stuff, they're eating German stuff. Our colonel was going to throw in the towel because there was only 3 other Ranger battalions that gave up to the Germans because they were surrounded, and that was in Anzio. And he said, we'll be the 4th. But it turned out, he said, we'll hold on. They held on. So what he did, they said, well, we'll send in Piper Cubs. The Piper Cub, we'll send in some Piper Cubs to send you in supplies. Just like the Army, they snafu anyway. They send in the Piper Cubs to throw ammunition and some food down. Most of it the Germans got. All our buddies got with the ammunition. But most of the ammunition, you get machine gun ammunition, you should know it comes in belts. They were sending them down, they were coming in clips. So we had no way, we had to do it by hand. You ever try putting them in? You used to have a machine. We didn't have the machine, but putting these bullets in the they started giving us belts. They said, that show you how stuff with the armor. Well, we got that, and finally, after 11 days, they held out. The 94th and I think the 10th Armored finally got to us. And they passed us up, and then we were pulled back. I went with the outfit. I went back to the outfit, and the doctor called me in the office, and he says, Nick, because everybody was Nick. None of this, we didn't salute. None of us saluted. Nobody saluted anybody. Our captain you never saluted him. We used to call him Ace. Never carried bars on the shoulder, because the Germans shoot the foot with the bars. And he, don't salute, I don't want you to salute me. But this captain, this was after, he came back and he called me in the office. He said, Nick, we're reclassifying. They reclassified me. I said, what does that mean? I thought maybe they were going to send me home. He said, no, you're going to go to a limited service. The war was almost over. The war ended about, I think, a month later. Which is, March, it ended in April, right? So the war was over. And he says, I'm going to send you back to another outfit. So, okay, they send me back to Compiègne. Now I'm in limited service. Compiègne, France. That's just where remember the First World War they signed and they took the train back Hitler took the train back out of there. I went there, it was 6 of us. Pretty good, quiet, there was no war going on. They care Italian prisoners. They were allowed to, they had their own kitchen, and we didn't have a kitchen. We used to eat with some outfit there, some platoon outfit. The food stunk, real like. So we had a captain here, he was reclassified too. He says, wait, let's go to the Italians. Now these are prisoners. They were even better than we are. So he set it up where they would feed us. We would give them the stuff. Boy, we ate. They make spaghetti. We had good, because we couldn't eat that other stuff these guys were giving us. We ate, because they didn't care. We were only 6 guys. They used to serve us. They had a table, all set with tablecloth. We ate like kings. I was there until the war. Then I would have came home under they had a punch system then. I was going to come home under the punch system, even though the war was going on. I was going to get discharged, but I had no priority. The war was still going on, and Japan, the war was still going on. Even when Germans surrendered, I still had no status to go home. So I stood with the labor supervision. Then they finally repatriated all the Italians back to Italy. Now I remember a couple of days before we were going, I was with a big GMC. We're driving. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning. I got 2 Italian prisoners and myself. They do the driving, and we're driving. So I said, "Come on, pull over to the roads were narrow in France." So I pull over. We go in this cafe. We have a cup of coffee, even though the coffee stunk, but it was coffee. While we were inside, some dopey frog. You know what a frog is? He was on a motorcycle. Coming up that road, I don't know if you could see the truck, but he hit the truck right in the middle of him, right through the windshield. He got killed, he died. Oh, the MPs come and all this shit. What are you parked here for? Well, we told him, we stopped a cup of coffee. Okay, everything on our head. We went back, we drove back. The 2 Italians and me, 2 Italians couldn't go back to Italy. They had to get charged. And I got charged. I was charged with manslaughter, and they were charged with manslaughter. But the captain that in the thing, he says to me, "Now don't worry, this is technicality." He says, "The reason why they do this is because you or these 2 prisoners decide to stay in France after the war. Their family might sue you. They press charges against you. So we don't want that. If we put you on trial, whatever comes out, I didn't get nothing." I was, I think, busted down to a private, and I got, I was going home, and cotton cigarettes. That was the fine. And Italians too. They finally went home. And I got on the ship. I remember I was at Camp Lucky Strike. That was those days. You come home, Lucky Strikes. I got on a Liberty ship to come home. Now this is from La Havre. The name of the Liberty ship, this curiosity, was Colonel Darby. Now you know who Colonel Darby is? He started the 1st Ranger Battalion, and all the 5th Rangers was under his command. And Darby, that ship took 11 days to go from Le Havre to Brooklyn. 11 days, and that ship bouncing all over the place. It was November, bouncing up and down, bouncing up and down. I thought the ship was going to split in half. It was so bad. Because I remember I was looking out when it was a little calm day. I look at the wrecks. I don't know. The Italians had a big ship named the Rex. It was like wasn't as big as the Queen Mary, but it was named the Rex. Well, when we passed, there was in England. We passed it while it was docked in England. We had been out in the water maybe 3 or 4 days. It passed us. You could see it passing us. I said, why did they put us on that ship? They put us on this thing, even though it's Derby. Well, that ship, every time it went up, it came down, and boom, it hit. And yet the whole shot, Jesus Christ. I went through the war. I hope this thing holds up. We finally got home, but it took 11 days. And then I got discharged. And then while I was getting discharged, they give you a physical. So the doctor says to me, you want to, he says, you know, you're losing your hearing, you know. I said, yeah, I noticed that. The guys were talking to me. He says, that's probably because of, you know, your shock and firepower, anything. He said, that could cause it. He says, I'm just letting you know, okay. Then I don't know, somebody put me wise. It must have been a Jew that put me wise. He says, tell him to put it down. You know, later on, I came back and put it down on the records. So I went back and I said, I want this put on the records. I'm losing my hearing. Because if I wouldn't have done it today, I wouldn't be getting compensated for, because I get a pension for this. And I wouldn't have been getting compensation. I wouldn't have been getting no hearing aids for free or anything, you know, because it's not service connected. But today they do give it, even though it ain't service, they give it to you, but they wouldn't give it to me. See, I got these 2 hearing aids I got. This one is broke. You know how much these cost? $6,000. You're paying for it and you're paying for it. $3,000 each. Now I'm getting new ones tomorrow. Now I don't know what they cost. Because I got these, every 2 years they give me new ones. Now these are 2 years old. They take them back. They give me another 2. And I keep these 2. Now,
I'll stop for a minute.
that woman's husband, 4th Ranger Battalion. We get together every so often. The funny part of it, I picked him up. We always went to reunions, and that's why I made friends with him. But I picked up something on the internet of Ben. He lives right in Queens. He was in the 4th Ranger Battalion. He was looking. This guy's name is Black, his second name. And his son puts on it, this my father was in the 4th Ranger, and he's looking for so-and-so. 50 years ago, they were in a hospital together in Anzio, and they came home together after, you know, during the war, and he'd like to get into, he's looking for this guy. So right away, Black hit him. So I write his son, he says, yeah, he lives in Clifton. I said, yeah, I know the guy. So I wrote back again, and he finally came to the Ranger reunion in Atlantic City, and they met after 56 years. And I was responsible for it. That's his wife that just called, because they call us every so often. Well, that's the story. I hope it was interesting.
Yes,
Very
much
interesting,
so.
fascinating.
Couple of things I'd like to ask you questions about.
Now, I ain't going to tell you I was known. Don't put this down. You got the thing.
No,
I was
we're
known as Luda Nick. Every place I went, I don't care whether it was a French house, Norwegian house. I'm looking for loot. They just call me Loot and Nick. But at one time I went into a German house and I always wanted a grandfather clock. I took it out of there. But the thing is, how do I get this home? How do I get this thing home? I says, and then when I go up in the front line, so I knew a lot of guys in the kitchen because our kitchen came, wherever we went, the kitchen went. It wasn't like the infantry, the kitchen's way back somewhere, but our kitchen always, when we moved, they moved. In other words, if we needed them, they tell them, drop your aprons, they give them a rifle and get out there because they trained like we were. And I knew it for, but I said, do me a favor, I got a grandfather clock, I got to get it home some way or other. I says, would you put it on the truck? Sure, yeah, I'll leave it in the back of the truck and we'll move. But all through the wrangling, on and off and on, finally got damaged and I told the guy, forget about it, leave it somewhere. But I did take a cuckoo clock, The Germans are good for cuckoo clocks. The cuckoo clock I got home because it wasn't as big. Put it in the box, I sent it home. But one of the weights was lost during the mail, but my mother treasured that clock so much, she finally went down in Yost and she got a weight, and just to keep the watch. And I've had that watch for years. I finally gave it to some guy because the cuckoo didn't cuckoo no more because they got, it's like a lambskin when
Right.
inside, and it dried up, and it kept pretty good time. But I got tired. I finally gave it away to somebody. I don't remember what they had to do with it. But those days. Now, what were you going to ask? That's why they called me Loot and Nick. And every time I went into a German house, I opened all the drawers. But I used to curse them because they must have took all the good stuff with them. They left the sheets. Who the hell wants sheets? A lot of things I didn't do, what I knew then. What I know now, if I knew then, I would be in a lot of money. I remember I was in a Repel depot. You know what a Repel depot is? I was in and when I got into a Repel depot after coming out of the hospital, they could not send me out as a replacement to the infantry, like a third, wherever they needed them. They couldn't say, they had to keep me there till our colonel would pick us up because they weren't going to send me to the regular infantry. So I was there, so the guy that was in charge, I don't know, he says, listen, you guys are going to be here a while. We were in a German camp. He says, look around the camp, see if you can find some stuff. The troops that are coming through have like a day room where they can play, so, okay. So we're going down there and we go into one of these things, it's an empty building. I go down the cellar, and what do you think I find down there? German loot. Pictures. Big frame pictures. And I'm looking at the date, 1600. I says to the other guy, what the hell? Who wants these old pictures?
Oh boy.
What the hell did I know? If I knew, I'd have cut it out, rolled it up, and took them home. But I didn't know. See, I didn't know. There were so many pictures there, big pictures. I said, who the hell would want these here? And we went back and I told him, there's a lot of pictures. He said, where? So he went down there. The next thing I know, that a couple of trucks backing in and taking it all out, but I didn't know. Like I say, if I knew then, what I know now, I probably would have took a couple, but I didn't. I don't know I said, what the hell am I going to do with these pictures? They're too old.
What did you ever have any encounters with Patton? What did you
Yes,
think
I
of
did.
him as a
Patton,
general?
I tell you, one time, I don't remember, it was someplace in Germany or in France, I don't remember. It was three of us were sitting on a curve, on the street. We're sitting there and we're just bullshitting. It was a town, the town was all, really nothing in the town. And this command car comes up, it's his car, and the command cars are wide, and it was when he had that, the flag, and he had the 3 stars there. He went right past us, and he squeezed the brakes, he stopped. And he had the driver back up, and there, we're sitting there. We ain't getting up for shit, We're still sitting there. He looked down on us, and then we realized who he was, but we still didn't get up. And he went like this. And he left. He never said a word. He must have seen the patches on our shoulder. He didn't say a word. You figure the infantry, you know, he was more infantry than he respected the infantry more than he did the armored. That's the only time I really seen Patton. Outside of the times I read in the papers where he slapped this guy in the face, you know, all that, you know, I read that in, you know, Stars and Stripes, but that and
What was your reaction to the death of President Roosevelt? Do you recall that at all, or?
well, I don't know. I think I don't remember too well. I might have, gee, the president died, you know, and then it got around to everybody. The president, and I think I said, who's Truman? Who's this guy? You know, I never heard of him. Personally, I think he was the best president we ever had. We need more like him. Because I worked in the post office, and he was a man that came up from haberdashery, worked his way up. And whenever the post office was looking for a raise, in those days, the post office could never get anything. Till now, recently, it's not so bad. In those days, you couldn't get nothing. Every time they give us a raise, they give us a big 2%, maybe about $3 a year. Well, he came out with something different. We got 2 raises under him, $400 across the board a year for all government workers. And the big guys up in the, you know, they didn't like that because if it was a percentage raise, they get more. They only got added sell for 400. So we all got 400, and we loved this guy. Then we got I think Eisenhower. He was another one. He vetoed everything. Then we got Nixon. That's when we went on strike. Then after that, the pay in the post office today is good. Now but I can't see these post office. You got all minorities now. American kids don't want to work anymore.
Yeah.
And they start, you know how much you start in the post office with? Now that's an unskilled job. $16 an hour. Get 15 days a year vacation, 24 days vacation. You get paid all holidays, and you get a hospitalization. Now you pay a little bit. You pay it. It's cheap. I'm still paying it today. And you get all the, and you're off, and what else? Now we have a lot of guys, a nice guy, he's an Indian. He took the job. He said, no, Americans don't want to work there. They want to, you know, out Americans, they want to start on the top. Because when I left the post office in 77, I retired in 77, I got a job right here in town. You got to leave?
No.
You just.
Well, this is nothing important in the war. I got a job right here in town. I was a pretty good job, pretty good salary I was getting there. I was in charge of shipping, you know. We used to make machines to make the chips for the computers we have today. And I worked there for 10 years because I had no Social Security. When I got out of this 77, we never paid Social Security. Now they do. We didn't pay Social Security, so you had Reagan calling us people that are getting 2 pensions, double dippers. Well, you son of a bitch, you were triple dipper. He was a triple dipper. He was collecting Social Security, he was collecting from the Theaters Guild pension, and he was collecting, I think, for the president or something. And he's calling me a double dipper. At least I'm a double, he's a triple dipper. Well, that's Reagan. Well, I worked there for 9 years, and I finally, you know, I built up my Social Security. I don't get much, but it's better than nothing. I worked there 9 years, and I retired from there in '64. They gave me a buyout, and I took it. You know, I was 64. I was going to be 65. I took the buyout. See, and that was a good company to work for. But I wish I had that. I was 100% dental. I get the oldest bridge here. They paid for everything. They paid for my daughters. I have 2 adopted daughters. They're married now. They paid for the delivery of the baby, and they paid the hospitals. That was a good. And I was getting hospitalizations free. Didn't cost me nothing. The company finally went under, you know. They sold it to the Japs, Sony. And then, well, I had got out after that, see, so they gave us a buyout and I took it, you know.
Can I ask you a couple other things about, did you ever use the GI Bill?
Yes, I used it when I got out. I tell you, I start from, first thing when I got out of the service, I said, well, at that time I wasn't married. I said, I'm not going to work.
So did you use that 5220 club then?
I was one of the record holders the whole year. I told you. But the funny thing about it, we used to have to report. Today you don't. You send a letter that you're not working and they send you the check. Today, those days, you had to report once a week and they had a special line for veterans. See, the other lines were people that worked there later. These were veterans. And every time you go there, there's always a line. I had to be there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but I used to go maybe 9 o'clock because the guys get together. We got an old beat up car. We were going to go to Jones's Beach swimming, you know. I was getting $20. It was $20 a week. That was a lot of money. I was keeping it, and I was getting a pension from, you know, from my hearing, and my mother used to keep that. And I was getting 20. And whenever we used to go to the unemployment insurance, that was on 149th Street, when I walk in there, want me to read it? Sure, but I could read it for you. It's just a short, it's not...
Sure, why not?
Yes, yeah.
That'll be good. Let me
wait a minute, before you go, let me see if it's the same thing on the bottom.
I think that just tells about you down there.
No, shortly after, here before you read, Nicholas von Butrico, a private in the 5th Ranger Battalion, received the order of the day issued by General Eisenhower to all the troops leading into France. He scribbled a brief prayer on the top. Shortly after D-Day, he wrote his memory of landing on the back. Years later, he talked about what had happened to his buddy he mentioned. See, my buddy I mentioned in here. We were on the landing craft. His name was Chester. It's in the same thing. And he was standing next to me and he said, "Nick, I'm afraid I can't swim." I said, "Don't worry about it. This boat will go right up into land." But a sailor dropped the ramp too early, and my buddy happened to be the first one out. And as soon as he went out, a big wave carried the craft and pushed right over his body. A few days later, I hear from headquarters that he was found on the beach.
Okay, why don't you show the front of this magazine first? Now, where did you get that?
Well, this one here, I had a couple of one. My sister, I bought a few.
Why don't you show it up to the camera?
Yeah, just hold it like that and I can zoom in on it.
So this came from the D-Day Museum in...
It was at, when they opened the D-Day Museum in, I think it was, when they opened, I think the 96, I don't remember, it was 96. When did they open? Or 95, I don't remember. No, what couldn't have been 95. I think it was a couple of years ago. I don't remember. Well, the opening of the D-Day Museum down in New Orleans. And when you went into the museum, they have like all these here. They have a Higgins boat. They got a P-51 hanging up, you know, and they had and if you go, they had a lot of things about D-Day, 29, everything. And on the 3rd floor was more dedicated to the Rangers. Now, I never knew I had this. I didn't know they did this, but when you went in on the third floor, they got this, if you can see it, this picture.
Okay, hold that directly in front of you if you would, and I'll zoom in on that.
Here, if you hold this up.
I
Whoops.
want to
That's
zoom in on
straight, and he'll
that
hold-
picture of you first.
See, now this was, but it's in bigger.
When was that picture taken?
Well, I guess it was taken in Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, 1942, around there. In fact, I got the picture inside. I'll show it to you. It's right on the wall.
Okay. Now, what is the significance of that letter that they had you send to them and copy?
What was that again? I didn't understand.
What was the significance of this? Why did they have you send that to them, and why
Because-
did they copy it?
Because this is the only one. The only one. You got a lot of these around, but this is the only one that was a letter written on it.
Oh, okay.
See, nobody had it. See,
Where did you keep that when you landed?
Well, I told you, I had it in my pocket. You know, the regular one, which
Right.
is inside.
Right.
I had it in my pocket, but I didn't realize it. If you notice, on the top it's June 4th. Now that's 2 days before the invasion. And then if you notice in the back,
Why don't you turn it around for us? And
the letter, June 6th.
And you wrote that while you were on the
Actually, I
beach?
didn't write the letter June 6th. I just put down what I see
Okay.
on June 6th.
Okay, on June 6th.
And I mentioned that on the bottom here most of the time. This is what, if you want me to read it, it's a prayer more or less.
If you'd like to read it, sure.
Sure.
Could you read it from here? It's
I
hard.
can zoom in on it. Yeah, I can't read it myself.
Well, you want me to try to read it? Geez, even me can't read it. I forgot. Well, I'll have to read it this way. June 6th. Landed 1 hour before D-Day. H hour. It was my first combat. As I turned around, I could see hundreds of bodies lying on the beach. Not one moved. Some tried to move, and some were drowning. I never prayed before, but I really prayed that day. I lost some buddies, but I made it. And we took our objective. That day, see now it's a little off because I can't read it because it's cracked. That day I'll never forget. We landed on the worst beach of the invasion. Omaha. Cut that off.
Start it up again. Okay.
Omaha. At night, Jerry's planes would come and try to knock us out, and we held out. We had to, all the plans would go haywire. All I thought was, if anything happened to me, that my family wouldn't take it too bad. And I'm glad I made it for my family's sake. I thought of the boys that didn't make it, and how they family would feel. I lost my best buddy on the beach. He never got to shore. Just a kid of 18. He came from Brooklyn, and he was Italian. All I can say that if I am thankful that I made it. Please protect me for whatever lies ahead for me. I thank you, Lord. You know, now this letter, this is the only one. There is no other one. This you got, but you got a lot of these around. This is what they were interested in. And
Now, you said you received a phone call from Stephen Ambrose who called you and asked
because,
you to...
well, asking me
if he could copy that.
they could copy, and I told you I got and the next thing I know, I got a letter I got a phone call from somebody from Virginia at that time. I got a call from Virginia telling me they would like to have it. But I said, well, I don't know, my kids don't want me to give it up. So they said, no, you sent it to us. The copy that you sent to the Eisenhower Museum is just a copy. He says, we want to make it a copy the way we want to copy it. So I think I can give it to you inside. I have a couple extra. Now, they sent me a box, Federal Express, prepaid, everything. They sent a little letter, put the letter inside, seal it, and if you notice, it's insured for $1,500. Oh, I swear, it's worth money. So I sent it. I think a week later I got it back. And they sent those things I got on the wall too. They sent that back. They sent that as a thank you, and they sent it back. And then I didn't hear. Then a couple of days later, I told you, I got a call from California. Now California, a woman got on and she says to me, we seen your letter. Now I don't know how they seen it, but they must have seen it somewhere. Or they seen it it was in the magazine. It's right in, I don't know, I got the, what is it, Forbes magazine. What's that magazine he puts out? It costs about $6.
Fortune magazine?
No, it's not Fortune.
What is this?
Classics something.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
I got the magazine inside. And I remember getting that. I was sitting in here, my wife said, here, a brown envelope. I said, what the hell is this? See, I open it up and I see the magazine. I said, who the hell? So I said to my wife, what do you need? You subscribing to another magazine now? So I open it up. About the first few pages, there, the letter in there, big, and it tells its story. And I call my wife. Oh, my daughter-in-law got all excited. The next thing you know, she's in the store buying all these magazines.
Has he been telling you interesting stories?
Yes.
Nikki, did you tell him about the glass eye?
Yeah, I told him that, but I told him not to put it down.
And did you tell him about the soldiers, the German
Yeah,
soldiers?
yeah. I didn't tell him about the Donny Shore either.
Oh.
Oh, they didn't hear that one. What the thing what was that? See, I forget a lot. See, that's a bad part. Do you remember what I said to you last?
You were talking about Forbes, the Forbes.
Oh, yeah. Francis,
Yes.
what's the name of that magazine? I got it inside.
Forbes
the one that-
magazine.
Yeah. You got the magazine inside?
Yeah, I'll have to look. I know where it is. What was, no, you don't have to get it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't find it anywhere.
Okay.
What was the name of the magazine?
Forbes.
Forbes
Nikki.
magazine.
No, was it Forbes?
Yeah.
I think so.
That's the millionaires magazine. All the millionaires are in that.
I wasn't a millionaire. They got me in there. Well, I came across the thing. I told you, they all got excited. Then a few days later, I get this call from California. They like to interview me down for D-Day Museum opening. For the opening of this. I said, sure, why not? I said, I've been on a few. I've been on Channel 7. I've been on Channel 2. I've been on all these channels. I got a lot of newspapers I've been on around in this neighborhood. In fact, some friends of mine just went to New Orleans, the senior citizens. They went on a tour, but and they asked me, one of the guys said, Nick, we got to tell me where it is. I said, it's on the 3rd floor, but they couldn't find it. And then they finally did find it, and then he's telling these people they're all senior citizens, and they're all gathered around here. And this was only a couple of weeks ago. And he said, this fella comes from our hometown, Congress, and they didn't know that. He says, we didn't know he lived in Congress. And that's how that there. Now, what was the other thing before that? Oh, the Forbes magazine.
Yeah.
And then I got the call, and they said, you just sit still, we'll send a limousine to your house.
Wow.
Pick you up, take you to 52nd Street and 5th Avenue someplace, up in the big studio. We want to tape, like you're doing. Only they have bigger cameras and they put things, wire around my neck and stuff like that. Well, we got, the limousine picked us up, and I got, to talk to the guy. He said, this limousine you're using, only for celebrities. He says, he was telling me, he says, I've taken President Nixon in this limousine, and I've taken big movie stars. He said, we don't cater to college proms. He says, they ruined it. He said, this is, it costs you a lot of money to use it. So I asked him, how much would it cost? Was my nephew, my daughter's son, he's Jewish, he was getting a bar mitzvah tavern on the green. So I said, we're all invited. I said, how much would it cost us to rent this to take us one way and then back? And that was what, 57th Street right off Central Park. He says, $1,800,
Yeah.
one trip. I said, that's what they charge. I said, forget about it. and that's, now, he took us to send, and I went up to this room. They asked me all kind of questions. Now, I must have been up there for 2 hours. They kept, the guy kept narrating. He says to me, I'm talking to you. You will not hear it. We'll just hear your voice. Okay, gave me all kind of questions, and he took pictures of what some of the stuff that you've seen inside. He took it, and I didn't have that with me. I don't think I had. Did I have? I don't remember if I had that with me. And they sent me a tape, 2 tapes. One of the tapes was no interruptions, right through, from the whole 2 hours, everything in there. Now, when it came on to the History Channel, they cut it, they just took the parts that fit into because there were other people on there, so they sent me that. They sent me two tapes. And plus my daughter, while I was in New Orleans, she taped. I was treated like a king in New Orleans. And then I was on the podium, the podium. I'm sitting here, and guess who's sitting next to me on both sides? Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg.
Really?
Right, because Steven Spielberg made the Private Rhine.
Yeah.
And
Now, did you see that movie?
yes, but
What did you think of it?
fictitious. I mean,
Yes.
even the beginning, that's ridiculous. A guy running around with his arm, that's overdoing it. And another guy's got his guts all hanging out. That's overdoing it. And he's hollering, mama, mama. Well, I hear guys hollering mama, but the guy's got his guts out. He ain't going to be living. But and in a lot of the ranges, if we go to reunions and we talk about it, we would have never the Army would have never took one section out of the ranges to go look for one guy, so to get him home, because the ranges, when we landed in Omaha, we had one objective, Pointe du Hoc, because Pointe du Hoc was the big thing during the invasion. In fact, we had artillery support. The USS Texas and the Arizona were our personal artillery support, because they bombed the shit out of that place. In fact, they even saved the guys, made it easy for the guys to get up. They threw so many shells into that cliff, it practically was going up this way. But when the 2nd Ranger Battalion got to the top, there were no guns there. The Germans had moved them. They had like telephone poles for guns, but they moved them back about a mile. It just happened that Lennon now, when I see him so often, he's still alive. And him and Sergeant Coons, which he just passed away, were going up with a few men up to this road, because they see tracks, heavy tracks. So let's go follow. There are the guns, all ready to shoot, ammunition all over the place. Nobody there. But about 100 yards away, there were about 100 Germans. They were talking and eating. They were getting ready to do something. So what he did was, Sergeant Donnell, he got in there and he, termite grenade. You know what a termite grenade is? Threw him into the breach, into the barrel. You know what that did?
Right.
It melts everything. And he only had 2, but there were 6 guns there, so he had to get a knock out the other 4. So came back. He got a couple from the other guys and went back, and they knocked out all the guns were up. The guns couldn't be, because these guns were facing Utah Beach. they could have been traversed to Omaha. See, that's why they wanted Pointe du Hoc capital, because those guns could fire on the Texas, they could fire on the Arizona, they could fire out the whole damn front. They wanted that, and today, General Bradley had said, and it's in most of your books, the Rangers had the worst objective in the whole Normandy invasion. Those guns, but they didn't realize they weren't there. The French did find they weren't there, but it was too late to get us, because we were on our way. That the guns had been moved, but the guns moved, see. So, but when we got there, but then they still had to hold onto a crossroad there, so the Germans wouldn't turn any, because actually Pointe du Hoc was between Utah and Omaha. So in other words, they wanted that link up, see, and we were in the middle. Pointe du Hoc is in the middle there. So they want us to protect the road so the Germans don't come in there. And they want to keep us separated. But it never happened. They held on, so that's the story. Now, and I had a good time. Now I'll tell you the story about down the show, which I never told. You got that thing off?
No, it's going.
You know that.
Do you want it off?
Well, I don't know. It's not really bad. I think we were just outside St. Lo. No, St. Lo. I tell you the truth, of all the time I was in the service, in combat, overseas, I never seen a USO show. Because we still today, we always say, well, if you're in the air corps, you see it. You don't see it if you're, or maybe in the hospital, but you don't see it. Rear echelon always saw it. You never see. It just happened, this jeep pulls up, and down the shores in there with two captains or something. She's going to entertain us. This was just before we're going into, St. Lo had fell, and they're pushing towards Paris. So we get there, that's just before we went to Brest, because we were going, they sent us to Brest. She got on the Jeep. No sooner as she sat on the Jeep, all right, get your stuff ready, we're pulling out. So, but as she's sitting on the Jeep, the two captains are mushing her up like mad, feeling her up, and said, now behave, you know how she was, and now behave at some point. And that's the story. I said, Jesus Christ, that's the only time I ever seen, got close to. I don't know if you ever heard about, what's his name, what's that short guy, he married her, Davis, what's his name?
Sammy Davis?
No.
No, not Sammy, he was in World War II, this is going back, he was an actor, short guy. He was in the USO, I forget his name, Francis?
Yes.
Who was that guy that got pushed back? The guy in the USO, when he said to the troops, all the people in the front moved to the back, I didn't come here to that thing. What was his name?
I know who you're talking about.
He's dead.
He's dead. Wasn't John Garfield?
John Garfield. You know John Garfield?
I never
You've heard
heard
him?
of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he came to USO. I hear this from the guy from the fort, because he was there. So he went there to entertain the troops. Just to show you how this government works. When he got on the prison, he says, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, before I start, all you people in the front, colonels, generals, nurses, all brass. He says, I will not entertain while you people are sitting there, and all of the GIs, the wounded veterans are all back there. Have them come up here. You go back there. The next day they shipped them back to the States. He must. That was John Garfield in those days.
I'm going to take this down. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I want you to hold that.
That good enough?
That's fine. All right. Do you want to explain to us what you got there?
Well, this, as you know, is New York State. It's a few years ago. This is the original dog tag what we first got when we first went into service. But they were taken away when we went overseas, but I kept mine because they got your address on here where you lived. And they didn't want you to get into German hands, see? So that's what that is. Now we come over here, this one and this one, two small towns in Germany, in Normandy. dedicated this to the Ranger Battalion, these two. Plus, I think the rest of the guys are Normandy, I don't remember. This is the Bronze Star. That's for gallantry, I don't know how I got it. Now this is Purple Heart, and that little thing in there is oak leaf cluster. That means you hit twice, so they don't give you a medal every time you get hit. They gave you a cluster. This is the Good Conduct Medal, which everybody else gets. This is the German occupation. This is an American campaign. This we don't talk about. Now this one here is European Theater of War. Now if you notice, there's stars. For each star is a campaign, and on the end it's got an arrowhead. An arrowhead is for invasion. And this here, I don't know what the heck that is. That might be the Victory Medal, I don't know. And this right down here is the Presidential Citation with an oak leaf cluster. You get that for, it's equivalent to the Medal of Honor, only in a unit. Now, we got a cluster, one was for Normandy, the other cluster was for the Zief that I told you about. That's what the other one was, and that's what it is.
Now you said the Ranger patch,
This
diamond
patch
is
here,
your original.
that's the original Ranger patch, but the 1st, 3rd, and 4th had this patch in Italy. They said, we didn't get this until we got into combat. So we landed in Normandy with this patch. That was, right after that, it was taken away. And we were issued. Actually, during World War II, you didn't wear patches on both sleeves. Today they do, I think, most of the service. In World War II, you only wore a patch on your left side. That's the only place you wore a patch. The Rangers were the only battalion, not Ranger battalion, were the only ones that wore a patch on both sides. Because the English wore theirs on both sides. Commandos had them on both sides, so we had them on both sides. Actually, if you were in the 9th Division, 8th Division, wherever you were, you only wore it on this side. You never wore it on this side. And that's the story.
Did you have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your interview.
Oh, you want those? I hope I can. Let's go inside.